As we continue with our final session in today's program and our philanthropy panel discussion, I'm going to turn the conversation over to Amy Argel. Amy is a Senior Director of Development for Individual Giving at Michigan State University and has been a huge champion for the university's women in philanthropy efforts.
Thank you, Stephanie, for that introduction. I just want to make some intro remarks as we begin our session. So philanthropic support to Michigan State University is really vital to ensuring the success of our students and for generation of Spartans to come, including our future leaders in STEM. As we move through our last session today, I would like everyone to keep a couple thoughts in mind. First, women across generations are more likely to give than men, and married women tend to be the decision makers in most households as it relates to where, when, and how much to give to charitable donations. Women are also inheriting intergenerational wealth right now, which is expected to continue. And that means women are having a significant impact in shaping a more just, equitable, healthy society. Second, when you think about everyone who registered in this program, almost 60% of you have made a gift to the university at some point in your life. When you add up the total dollars donated at MSU from everyone who registered in today's program, the dollar amount raised has been over $875,000 received, or almost $4 million raised. Whether you made a smaller gift to MSU or a major gift or even a planned gift to the university, we truly thank you for your support. If you have yet to make your first gift or you're thinking about something to support a space at MSU, we hope this session is both helpful and inspiring to you. So to start this conversation, we've asked a few of our fellow Spartan women from various colleges to join us today. Thank you to each of our panelists for being part of this program. We'll start off with brief introductions. Angie, can you kick us off?
You bet. Thank you, Amy. So first of all, it's great to be here today. This has been really inspiring to listen to the stories and experiences of all the folks on the program today. So I just wanted to thank those who organized it and those who participated. So I'm Angie Bodnar. I'm joining from Eagan, Minnesota, which is in the Twin Cities. I represent the College of Engineering and have a Bachelor of Science in Mechanical Engineering from MSU in 1983. Last title, or current title, well, my current title is retired. But my last title was Global Manufacturing Manager. I had a 34-year career at 3M Company, and so worked through the ranks there. And have been retired for about 4 years. And why I wanted to be part of the program today, because charitable giving and giving back is really important to me and has been for many years. And I want to be able to share that enthusiasm with others and talk about strategies and different ways to approach it and things like that. So it's great to be here, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Angie. Kenzie.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kenzie Cameron. I am joining you from Chicago today. And so my background is I graduated with a master's and PhD from the College of Communication Arts and Sciences. I'm currently a professor of medicine at Northwestern University Feinberg School of Medicine, where I also direct the mentoring program for our Clinical and Translational Sciences Institute. And why I wanted to be part of this program, I think, is because I mean, to echo what Angie said, I also very much believe in paying it forward. But also, I think I've learned a lot in the last couple of years about how you can make philanthropic gifts earlier than I ever thought you could. And so I'm going to have the chance to share that with all of you today. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Kenzie. Meredith?
Everyone, it's so great to be here. So I'm Meredith Herman, now Dr. Herman, which is really hard for me to say sometimes because I can't believe I'm already here. So I'm a pathology resident physician at University of Michigan. So I am in Wolverine territory currently, but I'm still very much a Spartan at heart, and I bleed green all the time. So I represent the College of Natural Science, which I'm so honored to do that as part of this talk today. So I'm a new donor and philanthropist, and it's really much thanks to my mentor, Dr. James Billman, which some of you may know. And he really encapsulates this mission of supporting young women, especially in STEM, and giving them an opportunity that they may not have otherwise had. So I really give him a lot of credit for mentoring me throughout the years. And so we co-endowed 2 scholarships, which has allowed me to be philanthropic and give back at a young age in my young professional career. So yeah, talking about ideas and how to help younger people donate that, or get involved in giving back. That is one idea that I think has is a big game changer. And a lot of this desire to give back stems from my own experience and where I was really in financial need on Pell Grants and really deciding whether or not to go to medical school. And scholarships really helped pave the way for me. And mentorship was a huge component in making me feel like I was supported and people believed in me and that I could accomplish my goals. So shout out to Michigan State and the biomedical lab program and all the role models I had there. So with that, I think the reason of being part of today as well is, being a role model and being a mentor and giving back and helping the future young women in STEM and giving them an opportunity that they may not have had. So yeah, I'm happy to talk more about that throughout the session.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Herman. I appreciate that, and congratulations on your endeavors in medical school. Our next panelist is Valerie.
Well, good afternoon. I'm also thrilled to be here. My name is Valerie Wright. I'm coming to you from Kalamazoo, Michigan. I'm in mixed territory, Meredith, so I'm a mixed group here. And I graduated from Michigan State, which is now the School of Planning, Design, and Construction and Interior Design, a BA in 1989. I'm a partner and senior interior designer at Hammond Architecture and Engineering here in Kalamazoo, which is pretty unique from an interior design perspective, but there only might be one other firm I know in the state of Michigan that has an interior design professional as a partner in an architectural firm. So it's kind of a unique position. And I wanted to share my journey because it's like other people said, you can always be philanthropic, but something changes that frees you to think about philanthropy broader. And that's when you want to start sharing it. And I think we're all going to be saying the same thing, but it's like you get to share your kind of journey where it's not quite linear. But now it's like, oh boy, now the gates have opened to a whole different philosophy, and it was being reconnected to the university from a board that I'm on. So that's how I want to be and be able to share that story.
Well, thank you, Valerie. And thank you, all of you guys, for being with us. And I will echo our conversation for the next hour, because I think there's an opportunity for all of you who have individual journeys through MSU. And we'd love to hear those journeys as we talk through these questions with you. So we've had a series of questions that have come along through the either pre-registration and some of those that I've also sprinkled in our conversation. For any of our attendees that are here with us today, please use the Q&A prompt in the Zoom toolbar. So if you would like to ask any of our panelists any questions, we'd appreciate it to be posted there. I'm going to look to you, Kenzie, to kick us off. Can you share a little more about your connection to STEM, and particularly being in coming from communication arts and sciences, having a pivot, not a traditional STEM role? And I'd love to hear how you've experienced that in the role that you're now at the university.
Absolutely. Thank you, Amy. As Amy mentioned, I came to STEM a little differently, perhaps, than some others. After graduating with my PhD, I took a much more typical job, which was as an assistant professor at the University of Georgia in a department of speech communication. But what I learned over time, I was there for 5 years, and I really wanted to be in health communication and health and medicine. And I started driving to Atlanta to work with colleagues in Emory, and driving to Augusta to work with colleagues at the Medical College of Georgia, which just then showed me I wanted to be in the heart of medicine. And so I was fortunate that 20 years ago, an opportunity arose at Northwestern, and I was able to join the Division of General Internal Medicine. So I am faculty in medicine, but my background is communication. Unlike Dr. Herman, I am a non-clinician. And it is really interesting to reflect on some of the differences. And I think we see this in many different vocations, but I definitely have had the experience of feeling as though I was being patted on the head sometimes. I've had the experience of actually being told I was too young for an award that I had been nominated for, which was then given to a man, admittedly with gray hair, who was a year younger than I was. So there definitely are some of those barriers that we are still also working against. But in addition, really what I think is crucial is I've also had so many advocates. And those are advocates, they're male and female, people who have been working with me and really sponsoring me, advocating for me. And so I think, and this reflects back a little bit on the keynote, is that really what we need to do is focus on that. We are going to find the challenges and the barriers as we move through our lives, but we have so many people surrounding us that are there and are willing to step up and advocate. And so as long as we can kind of keep doing that and focusing on that, I think it's huge. One final thing I'll just note is most of I've had the opportunity to give presentations mentoring related, and a lot of times at the end I put up pictures of my mentors. Most of my mentors that I put up are male. There are a few female, but most are male. So crucially important to realize that there is the mentorship out there. I will admit it's also gratifying when I put up pictures of my mentees to sponsor them. Many of them are female, but then also some of them are male. And so again, just this idea of lifting each other up and amplifying, which you're able to do not only just with mentors and mentees, but the colleagues around me have really been a source of support. And we've done a lot of amplification of each other's voices. If someone makes a comment that seems not to be heard, and then someone else notes it later, we will jump back in and say, oh, that's exactly what Angie mentioned earlier. I'm glad we've circled around to talk about that again.
Thanks, Kenzie. And I think you're right. Amy had mentioned about, kind of finding that group that is going to help support you and help amplify that and be in your corner. Does anyone want to make any additional comments on this question? I'll move on to the next one. I'm going to look at you, Valerie. Can you talk about how you got reconnected? What did that look like for you, and why was it important for you?
So, it's interesting. I think many of us, you want to be, all things sort of started for me. It was a life change coming to Michigan State in 1989, 85, 89. I was, a very shy, introverted person. A lot of things and where I am today, I think a lot of it stems from what happened at Michigan State. And then when you graduate, if you aren't necessarily connected, and this isn't a negative, you're looking for ways to reconnect with the university that might not be, or to give, or whatever it is, just be connected. But there aren't a lot of avenues. You're not really sure, to be honest, of the avenues, unless you go through maybe for athletics or something broader, like a bigger community. But you want to be more connected to your college, your major, something that gives it that more meaning. And I had responded to something in the College of Agricultural and Natural Resources, must have been an alumni magazine or something that highlighted student projects and things like that. And I had responded to, hey, you know what, I'm not seeing a lot of great, all good things, highlighting the kids that are in here and the students and all the great work they're doing, but I don't see any students being recognized in the school planning, design, and construction, which is 4 majors. And I said, hey, it would just be nice to see, in an aggregate, we want to make sure we see school packaging and everybody in there, the full breadth of the Canada group. And so, interestingly enough, a person in external relations had, reached out to me and said, well, you're pretty passionate about this. Would you ever want to serve on the CANAR, took a couple, I think, of external relations, and an opportunity came to be connected on the CANAR board, the MSU alumni board. And it was the pathway, it was like the second reconnection to Michigan State as a mature person. So, you know, you had your student life that was so strong and has, I believe, shaped me in so many ways today. And then this great sort of second reconnection that is even deeper, I think, than it was before. And so this connection to being on the board, I'm off now because of the term and the bylaws and so forth, but that really changed, and I'll share that a little bit later, but really that connection of being on that board changed my philanthropic journey completely. So I'll leave it there.
Thank you, Valerie. And I just want to reemphasize some of the things that you talked about. You made that first step, right? And so I applaud you for doing that and seeking something that came through a communications piece that you felt like, I think I want to make a difference, or I want to feel like there's faces of similar paths of me that I want to see in those communications pieces. And so again, I applaud you for making that. And I think echoing both, you know, the alumni panel and as Amy had talked about in the keynote was, you know, putting yourself out there, right? And sometimes as women, we have to make those initial steps and have to put that forward. And so again, I thank you for sharing that, because I think sometimes we forget those journeys that kind of put us where we're at right now. And so it's nice to reflect in that space. Angie, oh, go ahead, Angie.
Yeah, so I just to tap onto that, because I thought that was great. I'm going to also put in a plug, since I'm the vice president of the Twin Cities Spartans. I'm going to put in a plug that another really great way, if you don't know how to connect, is to start with your local alumni group, right? You know, they're all over the United States. I mean, here in the Twin Cities, for instance, we try to do all kinds of different activities, so you can always find something you're interested in. And the beauty of that, it's a great way to network, because we've talked a lot about networking through the program. A great way to network with your local Spartans and find folks who are in your college, your dorm, you know, those kinds of things. But the other thing is, you know, as you know, Amy, we bring in folks from development at MSU and from other groups from the colleges here, and they end up connecting through that. So it's a great way to meet folks from the university as well. So just want to tap into that.
Thank you for that great reminder, Angie. I'm going to segue to you. So since I still have you, talk about what inspired you to give back and start that philanthropic journey with MSU. You
bet. So it's been so interesting listening, because I hear elements of my story throughout the day. First of all, I'm first generation American. So my parents are both immigrants. So they came here, and I didn't speak English till I went to kindergarten. And so one of the things that's important, because I heard, I think from Amy as well, was my family didn't really know anything about a college journey, how to find a college, how to find scholarships, how to find any of those things. And I'm also the first one to go to college in my family. And although my parents insisted, they wanted me to go to college, but we didn't really understand that whole thing. And so as I look back, and I was hearing before about like greatest regrets, that question, for me, it was that I didn't network more with folks at the university in more leadership roles at the time. And it's because I didn't understand how valuable those kinds of things would be later. And so from a philanthropic standpoint now, as I've completed my career and looking back, I want to be able to, we hear a lot about representation, right? So I want to be able to represent to folks who are watching that, you know, yes, there are other people that have come before that have done this, first generation, first one to go to college. There's a way to do it, and about how to do it, about how to reach out to others for help, and those kinds of things. And so for me now, I'm at a point where I really want to be able to give back, not only from my financial standpoint, but from my time, my experiences, and things like that. So that's my story.
Wonderful. Does anyone want to share a little bit from their perspective?
I can speak. Oh, you can go ahead,
Go ahead.
Kenzie.
Go ahead, Meredith.
Oh, I just throwing in, inspiration. And I think we can inspire other people to also give back. And Dr. Billman is my inspiration behind giving back, and is like, hey, let's start a scholarship together. I'll start it, and you give into it over your lifetime. And I'm like, there's little easy ways to do that. It's very inspiring when there's other people who have done this, and they know, like, hey, let's keep this going. Let's get the younger generation involved. So just a plug for that.
Wonderful. Kenzie?
I was just going to add, in terms of part of where my philanthropic journey came from, was when I was in graduate school, I actually had a university distinguished fellowship. And so that meant I actually did not pay for graduate school. I was incredibly fortunate. It was the first year of the program, and it was amazing. But so I have always, at the least, felt honestly that I owe Michigan State the funds that a graduate student would have spent to attend. And I think I've always felt that way, but I never really knew what to do about it because I wasn't in a position that I could. But I think just having that sense of the opportunities that were afforded to me, how can I do something to make sure similar opportunities are afforded to others, even if it might take decades before you really can, do a lot, you can do a bit at a time.
I thank you, because I think if we think back about all our philanthropic journeys, it did start that way, right? It didn't go from 0 to 60 right away. In fact, a lot of us were just really kind of finding pathways in which we found areas of passion and ways that we wanted to give back to the university. So thank you, all of you, for validating that conversation. Valerie, I'm going to turn to you. What has, in similar vein, and I think many of you have already talked about this, but what has been your most rewarding philanthropic relationship? And can you share a little bit more about, how did you get involved, and what kind of process that took along for you, and kind of what journey that was for you?
Yeah, it's interesting, Angie. I loved it when you talked about, I was the first person in my family to go, well, my brother went to college, but it didn't work out so well. But anyway, so to successfully matriculate through college. And you don't know it's okay, just generationally, to think about where I was at. I didn't know I could be the person I am today, because there weren't panels like this that showed me the way. So I didn't know that could be me. You want to be, you have like a giver's heart, but you don't really know what that looks like. I didn't grow up in that atmosphere. It was basically, my parents were like, you're going through college, that's your job, that's, we want you to, that's your job, that's what you've got to do, go make us proud. Basically that was kind of how it didn't have this secondary process to it that it could be me. And it always, given money, donated money, but it wasn't from a philanthropic part. It was more of a, these causes are important to me. I didn't have a direct, literal connection. And I want to make sure people they see all of us and say, oh, that's me. These are all, absolutely, I can do that. And so once I was connected to on this board, I was asked if I wanted to do a lead gift for Give Green Day for the whole Student Success Fund. And having gone through interviews on scholarships and meeting the students and just really having such a visceral connection. So that first time I said, yep, I'll do that. And it doesn't have to be big, but that's going to be part of my next down further in the question of ways to make it fun and so forth. But I said, oh my gosh, it can be me. It doesn't have to be big. You do have in this thought process, again, because I didn't have us before. It had to be big. Like if I couldn't do 50, 100,000, 5 million, I thought, boy, I don't think they would want to talk to me, and that wouldn't be as impactful. So the first green gift was my first year. And then the second year, I thought, I don't think this is really good role modeling. I feel like I want to ask somebody, I didn't know this at the time. Maybe I should step back. I was at a job site, post the first year. Then the second year comes around, and I thought, you know what, I want to shake it up a little bit. Yeah, I want to be a lead gift again, but I don't want to just do it on my own, because I don't feel that that's serving a larger, thought process. So then I was on a job site. I was project managing a job. We were in the with walking around with the manager. We were working through a construction site, and I happen to have a Michigan State University. And he said, oh, did you go to Michigan State? And I said, well, yes, I did. And he said, so did I. And he was the president of the construction management firm. And I said, well, now I won't have this. I'm going to give you a call a little bit later, not today, because this is work, what we're doing right here. We have to get through this. I said, I'll probably give you a call. I want to invite you to do something with me for the next Green Day. So I talked to him after that, and he'd always given to that athletic. He never even considered giving to his program or his college specifically. He'd never really thought about it. And I was talking about the whole Student Success Fund and how important that was. And so he did a joint lead gift with me that second year. So we're expanding okay, I've got someone in interior design, I've got someone in construction management doing lead gifts together within this college. Oh, they're like me. I could see me doing that, right? And so now he's got his own gig. He's now giving to the college on his own without that. So that's, so then the third year, I'd like, so now I'd like to do another gift, whatever. And so it's actually the dean and another person on the board we did it together. But it didn't stop there. As an owner or partner of a firm, we sometimes have to do donor advised funds at some of we do education, healthcare, and biopharma. And so for one of our healthcare systems, we have to have an expectations that you would have a donor advised fund. And I decided, because of that partnership, to have a partner, not do it on my own. So I asked one of my other partners in my firm to do it together. So together, he had never thought about doing it either, right? So I said, well, I had this great experience of partnering. And so it almost duplicates other people who see that mentoring and think, oh my gosh, I could do that. And so even further than that, my husband's family is from New Hampshire. And so we started, there's a trust there that also does a lot of like senior citizen food insecurity and housing insecurity. So because of all that journey, we also do lead gifts there as well. So it's had this really interesting ripple effect, and it's been very freeing. And just, I think I don't know why, it's just changed my philosophically, the idea of philanthropy. It's just changed. So that's kind of, I think, did I answer the question? All right, anyway, there we go.
Yeah, thank you. Does anyone want to jump in and possibly share a little bit about their own journey?
Yeah, I would just say real quick, because I know we have to keep moving, but I think the other thing I would tag onto that is, and I think, Valerie, you touched on it, but it's about having a multi-level commitment. So, because it's easy to think about philanthropy as your money, but it's also, I think, important to think about your time, right? So, that you're committing your time and your energy to whatever is important to you, as well as making a financial commitment, because sometimes the time you give can be more valuable than the monetary piece. So I think that's something I would just add.
Thank you, Angie. And I think, and I appreciate, Valerie, your comment of helping people see that the journey is not a heavy lift. In fact, it is such a fulfilling opportunity to bring others along. And once they get the bug, they feel, wow, this is a really great opportunity to do that. Angie, I think you just segued into a question I'd love to ask Meredith. Knowing that your life is busy, Meredith, right now, but can you talk about, how are you handling your work-life balance as it relates to volunteer work, and how you're still being connected to MSU, if you don't mind sharing that?
I love this question. I'm so glad you guys asked this, because we're all busy. My bottom line for this is, if it means something to you, you will make time for it. And philanthropy and mentorship and giving back in Michigan State, it means something a lot to me, actually. So I'm going to make time for it. I'm not going to have excuses. Everyone can say, I don't have time, I don't have the money, I don't have the availability. If it's something you care about, you will fit it in your schedule. And that is something I try to do every single day. I will make time for it. And so I think every minute counts, every dollar counts. talking with a student for a few minutes helps. So any little connection or thing you can do to give back makes a difference. And I think that, like we discussed, like multi-level commitments and types of philanthropy, whatever you can offer is something that's valuable. And I think as Valerie was saying, with how do you get involved, this can look differently depending where you're at in your career or where you're at in life. And it really depends like what you're available to do and what you want to do. So if if you have an idea and you pitch it and you're like, I want to do this for the university, and you want to do it, then follow through with it. And if you say, I can give to a little like project here on the side, or I can, give this amount of money this year, that's what you do. And something I think we can all resonate with is like when you first give and you see like how it impacts people, it's a very like addictive feeling. You want to keep giving back, and it becomes contagious. I'm using these medical terms, right? So it's very contagious, and you just want to keep giving back. And I don't think there's any way you can reverse and not give back. So as a woman in medicine, first in my family to go to medical school. Medical school is very rigorous. Training residency is rigorous. I got married, bought a house. I got a puppy. All these big life things happened in 2023. It was an epic year. But I still made time for philanthropy and made time for students. So how does this look in a day-to-day life for me? Well, I do a lot of mentorship on the side, whether it's texting a student or having a phone call about something they're concerned about, reviewing a personal statement for medical school, like little things that I can do. That's like, it takes me 10, 15 minutes to do it. Yeah, that's a very minimal sacrifice. And I'm very fortunate that my program is very supportive of my philanthropic commitments. They allow me to take time off from my duties, and they're very supportive and say, you're going to Michigan State, you're giving a scholarship speech, you are meeting with students, you are fully excused from your clinical duties. And that is what's really important, is if you find a job and, support a community that allows you to do that, that's also very important. So all in all, the work-life balance and committing time, volunteering, it's a juggling act. I'm not perfect at it. I'm always trying to keep keep a notebook and keep track of things and who to follow up with and following up with emails and such. But I find that it's something that I'm going to keep doing, and it's important to do. And it very much parallels medicine also. Medicine is a very giving area of work. Doctors give a lot of time. They're all about patient care and helping others. And I think that it parallels a lot of what I do. And so I just do it naturally in my line of work. So it's just more of a lifestyle for me at this point. Like, this is what I do for work. I go and help patients. I make a diagnosis, and then I go home and I help mentor students. I attend different events and webinars. I go to Michigan State for a day and I have coffee and donuts with the medical students, or I'm on a panel, or, just something fun. And it gives me so much gratification, and fills my cup as I go through the week. So I don't ever really get the burnout. I'm always being filled with excitement and energy from the other students. So that's kind of in a nutshell how I juggle it. I'm sure everyone probably has their own way of balancing everything.
No, I mean, again, kudos to you for balancing all that as you're going through your residency. So again, that's great. Anyone else want to chime in terms of volunteering and balance and kind of handling some of those things? I'm going to look at Kenzie next for our next question. What has been the most valuable lesson or lessons you've learned in your philanthropic journey?
Thank you. And I'm so glad I'm able to answer this question, because it honestly is one of the main reasons I wanted to be on the panel today when Amy reached out to me, because as I mentioned, I've always intended to give back. And over the last, I don't know how many years, but every year I have been donating to an endowed fund in the College of Communication Arts and Science and Department of Communication called the G.R. Miller Fund, which is one that actually provides funds for graduate students to go to conferences, or perhaps if they need some funding for research. And I benefited from that as a grad student. So I've been donating each year in honor of my dissertation advisor, Dr. Franklin Boster. And actually, I will credit quite a bit to Rachel Rice of Michigan State, who approached me with an idea of doing an endowment in honor of Frank. And I honestly thought that if I did an endowment and I promised money, that I was going to have to pony up that money in the next 3 to 5 years. And that's the huge thing I learned. No, you don't. So my husband and I, last year created an endowment, the Franklin J. and Linda J. Boster Endowment for Graduate School Students in Communications. It's going to do in communication, it's going to do the same type of thing that the G.R. Miller Fund is doing. But as what was noted to me is G.R. Miller was amazing in communication. He passed away many years ago, and many people no longer know him, and they don't necessarily know the name to donate to. Whereas Frank and Linda are very much here, and it has the opportunity for other people to donate to an endowment that I created. That was also something I had no idea, that I could create something and it gave opportunities for others to donate. In fact, about within a week of when it was announced, one of my former classmates contributed to this fund in honor of Frank and Linda as well. And so just very quickly, what I learned is you can put it as this planned gift. And so in my will, essentially, there will be a certain amount of funds that go to Michigan State. And what I had to do was I changed my retirement withholdings, or not withholdings, but my retirement allocation in terms of payout. Both my husband and I had to do it. And we just sent that to Michigan State. And it says that, a certain percentage of what we have will go to Michigan State. And as of today, that was a sufficient amount of funds to reach the level of creating an endowment. And it really kind of blew my mind, because I never thought I would be in the position at this point of my life to have been able to create something like that. And the idea that it actually can be more than what I put into it, because now it's out there for others to also contribute to, was something that I had never thought about. So I'm incredibly grateful to development for really teaching me and walking me through this and kind of bringing me along.
I appreciate that story, Kenzie, because I do think there's some mystifying, perceptions about sometimes giving philanthropically, regardless of the organization that you want to support. But I do want to make a note from your point. It came from a place of passion and willingness to want to give back to the university. And I think one of the things that I heard you say was, how do I blend that with supporting something that I'm very passionate about doing, and for you that was graduate studies, and at the same time helping support people that you were in awe of in terms of your graduate career. And so I think that's the other thing that I picked up on, is that people think that, sometimes when you hear people name funds or they endow funds, and sometimes they're in honor of many people along their career path or their journey, that, there's a lot of opportunity to support that space. And so I think that's the thing that we help try to provide those nuggets of information to help kind of make those connections, so that you feel you're making that best investment through your philanthropic dollars. Anyone else want to kind of share anything?
Sorry, can I just add one thing to what that was said? The other thing that I think was important is I always intended to do this. And if I had waited another 20 years until I thought, oh, I have the money to actually give, would the people that I am endowing this fund for, would they still be alive? And, if I wait 30 or 40 years, probably not, unless there's magic medicine that's coming our way. So that was another thing that was really important, that I was able to do this and truly honor Frank and Linda when they could know and appreciate. And of course, they're incredibly humble and say, we don't deserve this, but they absolutely do. And to be able to have that happen now was huge.
That's great. Thank you, Kenzie. Angie, my next question to you, and you and I have had some extensive conversations, particularly your career path in engineering. Like, how do you want to support that next generation of women in STEM?
Yeah, so I think, the first thing, and I kind of mentioned it earlier from an introduction standpoint, is first of all, by representing and showing what's possible, right? I mean, I had a 34-year career. It's been 40 years since I graduated from MSU. And to show the progression that you can make, we've heard a lot of folks today talk about that they were the only women in the room, or there were very few women in the room. And certainly that was the same for me, especially working in most of my career in manufacturing. And so to be able to show others what's possible, I think is really important, and that you can be successful and progress. And, despite the negative comments that you hear or whatever else, that if you are, I think, persistent and resilient was a word we heard today, right? That those are really important things. So for me, that's the first thing. Second of all is leading by example in terms of giving of my time and my financial commitment to the university, I think is really important, along with, as Valerie talked about, other philanthropic organizations that are really of importance. And so I think identifying those and giving back and being visible and vocal to let people know what you can do, how you can do it. Valerie and Kenzie, all of you, Meredith, you've all talked about that in terms of, helping others to know what's possible. I think that's the second thing. And I think the third, which we've heard a lot about today as well, is mentoring others, right? So being available to answer questions, first of all, from a career standpoint, but also if folks have a question from a philanthropic standpoint, being available to answer those questions in a non-threatening way or non-pushy way, but just to be able to say, here's what you can do, here's how you can do it. Several of you have talked about starting small, right? And that's how we all did it. And you have to start somewhere. And so I think that those are, some of the things to me that are important in terms of being able to let others know that you can do it, how you can do it, and to be out there putting yourself forth, which I'm an introvert. So for me, it's hard for me to do that, but here I am. So thank you.
Thank you, Angie. I think this is a great segue for Valerie. I think you talked about this when you started talking about, just your journey and how you started to give back for Give Green Day. But, if you can kind of remember when you were talking to your coworker in building construction management, how did you start to talk to him about creating a culture that every alumni could start to give back? If you could kind of share that.
Well, I think, and I love it too, when Angie was talking about too, you start with time. That's where you start with, because you think that's the most logical, and you aren't always in a position, and sometimes your mind just doesn't think that way. You might not have been brought up that way. You might have just, and all of a sudden, you're like you said, your diction, the first time, this can be, I can talk to somebody else about it. And so it doesn't have to be big. That's my first thing. It doesn't have to be big. It can be, when I say lead gift, it's not like it's big. That's the advantage to partner makes it more effective. Find a partner. That's the thing. Like when I approached him, I don't know why it just connected in my brain, because we were just talking about it, get ready for it. I thought, how much more mentoring, or how great, two separate things to just have a partner to be able to do this, because now he's impacting all the people in his life, in his firm, in his major. Other people are seeing him, and that's kind of a cool thing, and other people are seeing me. And I think, so let's find a partner. And just to segue a little bit in my other DAF, the benefit of having a partner is that our gift is a little bit larger because we can do it together, and we can, so in a DAF, in this particular, for the healthcare organization, for their foundation, we are presented smaller projects twice a year that aren't funded by capital or operational, and people throughout the healthcare system need, they need a little money, whatever, and we actually blind vote on the things that are most that resonated with us, and then we come together and we actually come up with the same things that really strike us. And we're two different completely people, so make it fun. Get a partner, make it more engaging and more, I would say, like this engagement factor, right? So make it fun. And then reinforce the opportunities that you have like this, because people are seeing us that we're, yeah, it can be you, right? You know, my husband and I are of modest means, but it can be you, and you look at creative ways. But even every opportunity I have to lecture to students, whether they be freshmen or seniors or other alumni, I consistently talk about it. I don't necessarily talk about it financially at that point, because they don't want to, you know, I talk about it in different ways. I start the circle. You know, it's a circle. We're giving forward and backward because of the generosity that we have all been recipients of. Sure, I can't imagine. I always say, you know, I can't imagine that no one in this room has been the recipient of some generous person or generous person. So I think that's reinforcing it at opportunities, not overtly. You know, it's not like that's my entire presentation, but just subtle ways, and like how that's been so impactful for me to remain connected to the university, either time or something like that. So that's I think something you know, because then hopefully people can see themselves. I think that's part of it too. Like, representation is really important, because this panel wasn't a thing. You know, when I was thinking about, you know, the small art, thinking, oh, I'm just going to make some donations, whatever, I really didn't think about it as a complete, you know, complete journey. I didn't think of it like that. I thought it was fairly linear. And then, let's see. Yeah, I think those are my main things.
Thank you so much. I think this is a nice transition for a question to Meredith. And you talked about it in your introduction, but you know, what was that motivator for you to make your first gift?
Yeah, I'm just really enjoyed hearing you guys discuss it, because I resonate with a lot of it, even though I'm like really freshly graduated. But I think we can all resonate that a lot of us are motivated by our own journeys, the people who have sponsored us and mentored us, and we reflect back and we're like, wow, like all these people and opportunities really, you know, helped shape me. I want to do that for other people and give them a head start, or give them, you know, an extra, you know, door open in the world. So that was, you know, intrinsically a motivator for me. Now, how do you make that happen? So I like how Kenzie said, like, you can have intent, and then you have to have an action, right? You think about it, you have that idea, like, how do you make that happen? So I think a lot of us are, you know, like trying to figure out, like, how do we make an impact? So for me, the catalyst was Dr. Billman, right? So, you know, I was like, co-endowing these 2 scholarships at Michigan State with the marching band, which was my first love, that drew me to Michigan State, and the biomedical laboratory science program. I think back, you know, what matters, what means the most to you? What was the biggest part of your journey? That's a good place to start. And when he asked me, well, where would you like to endow? I thought, these are my 2 favorite things from Michigan State. I'm still very connected to these things. So I think that was a big motivator. Like, I want to keep giving back to that. I get so much enjoyment from meeting the students and hearing them play the fight song and watch them work so hard during the season. And then meeting students over coffee and discussing their interests in medicine and laboratory science. And I get to use my experience and connect with them over these commonalities. So that was a huge motivator for me, and that's what inspires me to keep giving back, is because of the gratification you get and the students you meet, and how much your scholarship helped allow them to take advantage of opportunities instead of having to work an extra how many hours. They got to partake in a certain extracurricular, take another class, work an unpaid internship. You know, these are things that help give people a leg up in the world. So you can make a difference in someone's life, no matter how big or small. So that is pretty much my motivator, and also being able to vicariously live through their experiences again. You get to relive what it was like being in college and live new experiences from hearing their stories. And I think that's just part of being a Spartan and being in this community. Is it's all kind of comes back full circle, and we give forward and backward, as Valerie said too. So those are my thoughts on that.
That's wonderful. Thank you. And I appreciate that. You're right. It's like Valerie said, it's not a linear journey, but it's a very cyclical journey, and it goes through different waves and pathways. So I appreciate that. Angie, particularly now with you having retired, can you just share, you know, how has giving changed in your life?
Yeah, absolutely. And it certainly echoes off of what the other panelists have talked about, but you know, it really resonated with Valerie. We're talking about, you know, it started off small, right? I mean, you know, it started off 30 years ago or something like that with small amounts. I wasn't necessarily making a huge amount of money, but the initial drive to contribute something was because, and we heard it earlier from other folks, I felt like everything I have in my life and that I've achieved, the foundation for that was Michigan State University, right? So I bleed green a lot, and am so grateful and appreciative that everything that I achieved really started, in that engineering building and Holden Hall. So, I think that's the start. And I think another key point is, when you're saying, oh, you start off small, and Meredith, you touched on that, is that little things add up. I think another thing is, don't be intimidated going, well, I can only donate so much money, right? It's okay. You start somewhere. And if that's what you can do, that's great, because it's not about comparing yourself to others. It's about saying, here's what I can do to help give back in appreciation for the things that I've accomplished, right? And so I think that's a thing that I think about, is it's really easy to be intimidated when you see how many millions of dollars other people are giving. And that's great that they can do that. But everything that you can give matters just as much. And so I think that's one thing. And then the other thing in terms of learnings is really honing in on what's important to you. I touched on that earlier. It's easy to give a little bit of money here and there and here and there. And even my financial planners, they were the ones who said, you'll have more impact if you find a few key things that are important to you, where your money then can really make a difference. So I think that's the second thing. And the third, which I touched on earlier, is investing your time along with your money. And, we've heard that from the others as well, because I think your time is sometimes more important, certainly than, the money's important, but your time and your voice, your presence are also important. So those are my thoughts.
Thanks, Angie. I have 2 questions as we wrap up, and I'm going to ask all of you guys to participate in these questions. So I think Amy was asked this question too. As you think about your younger self, what advice you would give young professionals who want to make a philanthropic impact now? I'm going to look to Valerie to kick us off.
I think what I would advice I would give to young professionals, and I try to give it actually to the staff that I work with who are in different professions as well, is I think it's all what Angie says. So start maybe with time and connecting to things that are important to you, because it does make a difference. Once you make that shift in your mind, it's different, right? Once you don't give a little gift, I mean, it's fine. That's all good stuff. Don't get me wrong. But once you make that shift, when you're so, like Meredith said, viscerally and literally connected to a place, you can see it, you just know it, it makes all the difference. So I would give the recommendation of start with things that really you're passionate about. And it doesn't have to always be in your profession too. It doesn't have, it can be your university, something was really impactful. People were so motivated in my office about my philanthropic journey that during my 25-year anniversary, they gave a donation in my name, honor, to something that I was very passionate about. But they said, well, we didn't think you wanted things. We know how important this is to you, and this is one of your pillars. And so that's what they did for my work anniversary, and I thought that was pure genius. I mean, thank goodness you didn't give me a clock. So anyway, just you don't know where your impact's going to be, and that's why I tell those stories to young professionals. So small things can add up big, and find your passion, something that you're really so connected to.
I like that. Meredith?
I concur with everything that Valerie said wholeheartedly. If you're in your 20s and you're listening and you're thinking about, how do I give back? I don't have money. I'm broke. I'm with you. But do work hard, obviously, in school, and make the most out of your Michigan State experience. Be involved, get to know people, and figure out who you are and what you love to do, and make that a part of your lifelong journey. And I think giving is a lifelong habit, and something that you do, and you make sure you prioritize that as well. And if you can't give money, which a lot of people who are really young can't, giving your time And like, I think that's perfect. Like Valerie said, like build your way up. If it's time, then give your time. Don't volunteer towards a good cause, start an initiative, do something that helps people just through being there. And then you build up as you go.
Right. Kenzie?
I'm just going to add a little bit onto what you've heard, because we've heard a lot about time and funds and money. And what I've always heard is time, treasure, and talent. And we have each one of those in different amounts at different parts of our lives. And so another part of giving your time could be giving some of your talent. You have a particular skill in it, being able to do something, and maybe you can't attend any of the events and volunteer anywhere, but you can do something remotely based on the skills that you have. And really just realizing that it's going to ebb and flow over time in terms of what can you give, because there will come times where giving time is really challenging, but maybe that's a point where you'll be able to start to switch a little more towards treasure or giving philanthropic gifts of money.
Great. Angie?
Well, those are all great. I'm not sure how much more I can add. I would reiterate, don't be intimidated, because I think sometimes giving can be an intimidating thing. Don't be intimidated. Everybody starts small. I think that's important. I just love the guidance from everyone. And I think the only other thing which someone had mentioned earlier is, talk to somebody back at the organization. You can just, they'll call you up on the phone, and you can certainly give your money through the green line, right? Or you'll get a mailing. But I heard it before, talk to somebody back at the school, back at the organization that matters to you, whether that's marching band or it's the art museum or it's your college. I think all those are important, and that's another way certainly to be able to channel your efforts.
Great. So my last question to the group is, in 1 or 2 words, please share what inspires you in the STEM field. I'm going to go back to Angie and ask her to start us off.
1 or 2 words, Amy. I think inspiration and problem solving. To me, those are the things that inspire me about problem solving, and then finding a path forward. Sorry, I couldn't do it in 2 words.
That's all right. Kenzie?
My colleagues.
Nice. Meredith?
Does it have to relate to your work?
No?
In medicine, it's diagnostics and cures. And then, of course, philanthropically, it's the people.
Wonderful.
The students.
Valerie?
I think for me, so I don't want to repeat anybody's, but for me is I design buildings and spaces and systems for people I will never meet. And it's in healthcare, as I said, education, and the biopharma areas. I will never meet the people I inspire. It's kind of like philanthropy. It kind of mirrors. And that honestly has kept me motivated for 34 years, is that knowing that I could potentially, just really, not only from an evidence-based design perspective, but just, having that impact of people you will never meet.
Oh, thank you all for being part of this conversation today. I truly appreciate all of you and your time. Thank you. And for those that are still with us, I hopefully you found some nuggets of information and inspiration in this conversation. So again, kudos to all of you, and thank you for being with us. It was as before I turn things back over to Stephanie to close out today's program, I'd like to take a moment to, on behalf of the MSU Women in STEM Steering Committee and at Michigan State University, to thank Stephanie for moderating today's program. As usual, you've done a tremendous job and we appreciate all your time and effort to continue the work of this program. And so, Stephanie, thank you so much for being part of our day virtually, and we appreciate all that you've done for us.
It's my pleasure. Thank you. And thank you for asking. I am happy to give as much time back to MSU as I'm able to. So thank you for giving me the opportunity. Before we end our time together, I would like to take a quick moment to say thank you to Lori Thorpe, Amy Yoder, our alumni and philanthropy panelists, and the college leadership teams for participating today and supporting this program. Listening to everyone's stories and experiences, the words of wisdom that have been shared, and the time each of you has put into this program is so very much appreciated.